Hey everybody and welcome back to yet another video on this channel. My name is Silly Billy, but you can call me Billy. This video is gonna be a bit different than the other videos I've done before. And the most you'll notice this is because this is not a scripted video, and rather it's just me rambling about the characters of the Total Drama universe once more. I said I wasn't going to do just Total Drama, but that doesn't mean I won't revisit the show every now and then. I've been asked before, Billy, what's your favorite character in Total Drama? And honestly, I don't know. I have a few characters that I really like and a few characters that I really don't like, but there's not one character that mostly comes to mind when I'm asked that question. So today I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna find out. And I'm not going to do that with some stupid ranking or anything. I mean, who does ranking videos nowadays, right? Oh, instead I'm going to put the contestants in a battle to the death. Wait, not to the death? Okay. We are going to have a knockoff style battle royale between all the characters and we'll see who ends up being the best. So let me explain how this is going to work. You're probably all familiar with a bracket anyway, but just for those few people who are wondering what I'm gonna do here, I'm going to go over all the characters of the first generation of Total Drama, so that includes everybody up until World Tour, and I'm going to rank them based on how much I like them. I'll give my reasonings why certain characters are liked more than others, and I'll take every season they compete in into account, even if that is beyond the scope of the characters I'm looking at. Basically, I'm also including All-Stars. Okay, this list has been randomly generated, so there might be some weird matchups, but there might also be some very coincidental matchups. I already saw that Jeff and Bridget are together here. That's kind of funny. You know what? Let's just start off with our first battle, which is Justin versus Heather. Well, immediately we have an interesting one, because if I go off by likability, it's probably Justin. I think Justin is a very funny character and one that deserved a lot more screen time than he actually got. Action, he was one of the best characters there. Heather, on the other hand, is one of the most well-written characters of all time. I feel, especially with the lack of character development that Justin got over Island and World Tour, I feel I gotta give this one to Heather, but this is immediately a difficult one. Okay, this bracket is 32 people long, and there's only 25 people to cover, so some people get a free space. They get to move on in the first round automatically, and in this case, Sadie gets to move on a free space. Alright, then we have Alejandro versus Ezekiel. I mean, this isn't really a competition, right? It's easily Alejandro. Alejandro was a great villain in World Tour, and he was also a great character in All-Stars. And Ezekiel, well, I think they did fun story beats with the character, but as a contestant, Ezekiel, well, no. Let's just no. Oh, no. I'm gonna move Duncan ahead. Let's skip that. Courtney versus Blaney. Gwen versus Lashana. This is also an interesting case. Well, like I said in one of my videos, I don't think there are a lot of people that are particularly rooting against Gwen to win. Same with Lashana. Both of these are incredible powerhouses, and then it just comes down to personal preference, which in this case I think has to go to Gwen. I think Gwen is in a lot more annoying storylines, but that is not something that diminishes the character for me. Like, she's in the worst storyline in Action, she's in the worst storyline in World Tour, but she's still one of the best characters in the show, period. And with Lashana, yeah, I like Lashana, but not as much as Gwen, I think. Noah gets a free pass. That's gonna be an interesting battle in a second. And then on the second half, we have DJ versus Cody. Okay, so on the one hand, we have DJ, who is very solid in Island, has a decent storyline in Action, is again pretty solid in World Tour, even though he is cut short from that season, and then never reappears to the show, except for one episode in Revenge of the Island, but I don't count those. And then we have Cody, who had a pretty decent run in Island, didn't get a run in Action, and then got a great run in World Tour. I think nobody was really expecting Cody to become a main focal point of the show at one point, so I'm glad we got that. But if I then have to say which character is my favorite of these two, It used to be Cody so much. He was at the top of my list for sure. But I think I'm gonna go with DJ? What? Just because I think he has some funnier moments. Like, Cody is very much claimed to Sierra. Especially in World Tour, of course, because, well, before that we didn't know who Sierra was. In Island, Cody is great, and then in World Tour, Cody is like Sierra's pet, and the show really doesn't do a whole lot different with him, so I guess I'm gonna go with DJ on this one, as he gets a lot more development on his own as well. Next we have Eva versus Beth. Okay. I see. So on the one hand, Eva is probably the most insignificant character in Total Drama. But then there's Beth, who, well, she got action and she became all power and she didn't deserve any of it, and she then just like floated to the end, and my Beth was so annoying. So who of these two do I like more? I think Eva isn't really likable in the few episodes she's in, so I'm gonna go with Beth. And then I guess it's because of Island, because I really liked her little arc in Island with her standing up to Heather. That was fun. That was a million times better than what we got in action. Then we have Harold versus Trent. This is a no-brainer, of course. Harold is a fantastic character, and Trent, he's good in Island, but then in action, I can think of 9 reasons why Trent would be beaten by Harold here. So no. Lindsay gets a free spot. That's gonna be an interesting battle. Harold versus Lindsay. Oh, I'm already fretting that one. Okay, Jeff versus Bridget. This is also a pretty tough one, but I think I'm gonna hand it to Jeff. Jeff, well, of course, he has the Redonkulous race, which absolutely improved on Jeff's character by a mile. Even though it kind of changed who Jeff was as a character, it still massively benefited this character. And then Jeff has this unlikable side to him in action for some reason, but again, so does Bridget in World Tour, who, well, you know, the whole Alejandro shtick, I really didn't like that. So yeah, I gotta go with Jeff here. Finally, we have Tyler versus Izzy. Again, I think this is a pretty easy one. Both are funny characters, but none are as funny as Izzy. I think Izzy is the funniest character in all of Total Drama. She's so ridiculous and over the top, but they managed to mask that so incredibly well here. And then, well, Tyler, yeah, you know how I think of him. He got shafted in Island, didn't get to return in action, and then he got to be in World Tour, but didn't really get to be his own character. I think Tyler is one of those characters that people look at and think, oh yeah, he got that underdog development, but really he didn't. And if they ever were to do a season with original characters, I hope that Tyler gets to be in it again, and that this time around he does get to be a character of his own, with his own interests and his own storylines, and not just as a puppet for, I don't know, Lindsay to forget who he is, and Courtney to need somebody to make out with, and stuff like that. Just give Tyler a role on his own, and I might consider putting him above Izzy. But then again, Izzy is Izzy, so that's probably not gonna happen anyway. Moving on to round 2. What is this? The 1/8 finals? Let's just call it round 2. That's easier. Harold versus Heather versus Sadie. I mean, Sadie got to be in round 2 because she got a free space in round 1, right? There's no other reason why Sadie is here. And if you're then posed to Heather, this is pretty much a no-brainer. I'm gonna move on now. Alejandro versus Duncan. I know what other people would say here, but I'm gonna go with Alejandro because I might not be the biggest fan of Alejandro in general. I really don't like Duncan either. I think Duncan is so poorly understood by the writers. Like, they make him this bad boy that you're supposed to look up to because he's so cool and so edgy, but really he's just a bully. And I don't really understand why he got to win action. If they would have let him win Island, and maybe I could have understood that if they didn't have such an amazing finale with Owen and Gwen. But the way they portrayed him in action and then let him win that season, I really didn't like it. And then in World Tour, he got to play a very important role again, which was annoying as ever. And then finally, in All-Stars, they understood, hey, we don't need Duncan to do a proper season. We can just eliminate him 8th. That's his lowest ranking ever. How? I don't understand. Even when the guy quits by himself, the writers find a way to bring him back. And then there's those times where Chris is like, oh, I'm not gonna eliminate Duncan just yet. He's gonna bring a lot of revenue to the show. Yeah, come on, guys. Just get rid of Duncan. Invest in other people. We don't need this guy. Courtney versus Sierra, that's a pretty easy one, I think, again. I notice a pattern that a lot of these characters that make it to round 2 because they didn't have a partner yet are then beaten in round 2 by somebody who got to be there legitimately. And Courtney is no exception because, well, Sierra could be a very cool character in World Tour, but then All-Stars, oh boy. Meanwhile, Courtney has, well, I think 3 out of 4 seasons where I really like her, with Action being the exception. And even there, she's pretty decent. I just didn't like her very much. But she's a great antagonist. She's a great cute character. She's basically the whole package. Courtney is a well-written, if not my favorite character on this show. Okay, moving on. Gwen versus Noah. Oof. Oh my. Okay, so I just gave a whole speech about how amazing Gwen is. But then we have Noah, who in my opinion is... What is my opinion of Noah? First of all, Noah is great. He's super funny. He's likable. He has that no-nonsense attitude over him. But then again, it takes them a long time to realize the potential that this character has. So do I then rank him above Gwen? I think not. I think I'm gonna go with Gwen, even though I think Noah is a fantastically fun comedic punchline. I think Gwen in character development beats out Noah in this department, so I'm gonna go with Gwen here. DJ versus Katie. No, that's an easy one. DJ wins that. No discussion needed there. Beth and Owen. Well, I'm going to do this real quick. I mean, you know, there's a difference, right? Both didn't get to be in All-Stars, but there's only one of these two that I'm salty about that they didn't make it in that season. And I guess that speaks for itself. Harold versus Lindsay. You'd love to see it happen, especially when it didn't happen in Action. This may be the toughest decision on this entire list. I really don't know. Let me think about this. On the one hand, I think Harold is the better character in terms of underdog status. Harold is that dorky, geeky character who sits in the shadows and has to be on the sideline for other characters to flourish, but then whenever they actually need somebody to rely on, Harold is there. Like, there's so many challenges in the entire show that are won by Harold and nobody else alone. Like, it's Harold carrying his entire team. I think Harold is very funny. I think Harold has great character development. I think Harold is super likable. And I think Harold is fantastic. Harold is fantastic. But then again, we have Lindsay on the other hand, who is equally amazing. She is that dumb girl that does get to stand up for herself and prove that she does have a brain, especially in Action. She does get that development that Harold also gets. She is as funny as Harold is. This is, I think, a battle of the titans. In that case, we're going to have to nitpick. Both didn't really contribute anything to World Tour. I think Lindsay was terrible in Action. No, wait, what did I say? I think Lindsay was terrible in All-Stars. Lindsay was amazing in Action. Lindsay saved Action together with Harold. Yeah, Lindsay was terrible in All-Stars. And I think because Harold didn't get to be in that season, he didn't have to go through all that. I think I'm gonna go with Harold. Looking back at it, losing Lindsay from the Harold versus Lindsay finale stung a little less than losing Harold from that finale. That was, for me, the final part at which I thought, this isn't happening. This is not where this season is going. Yeah, I gotta go with Harold, but this is the toughest choice in this entire bracket, I know for sure. Okay, Jeff versus Izzy. In terms of character, Jeff. In terms of likability, Izzy. So I'm just gonna go with Izzy because I really like Izzy. Alright, it's time to go into the quarterfinals. We have 8 people left on this list and we are going to narrow it down to just 4 contestants. First off, we have the finale of World Tour, Heather versus Alejandro. And I think this is probably the easiest of the 4 brackets we are yet to encounter on this list because, well, Alejandro kind of got to be here by accident. Ezekiel isn't likable and I really don't like Duncan at all, so Alejandro just got to be here because it was somebody, right? Meanwhile, Heather, she actually, well, okay, she didn't have the best track record either, but Heather is a fantastic character, and I really like Heather, and, well, let her triumph over Alejandro like she should have in the World Tour finale, because, I mean, that's how it's supposed to be. No, but in all seriousness, I think the only way Alejandro could win this of Heather is by only looking at All-Stars, because Alejandro was a great character there, and Heather really wasn't, but Heather just has way more to stand on. Heather is an amazing villain, and yeah, so is Alejandro kind of, but I think Heather was more creative in her approaches to being evil, and Alejandro was just like, oh, I'm gonna manipulate you! Oh, bye, you're gone now I'm gonna manipulate you! Heather was a lot more creative, even though she had dumber decisions than Alejandro. Action, Heather just got to be like a punching bag, which I thought was kind of funny. We never really got that for Alejandro. Overall, Heather is just a better character out of these two. That's just, there's not really an argument here, I think. Next up, Gwen versus Courtney. I really like their friendship to begin with. There's a lot of people on fandoms that are shipping people together, and mostly when they're not canon, I don't really like them. But Gwen and Courtney, if they ever decide to just go with that ship and make them a couple officially, that would be so much fun. I mean, the two work together marvelously. I mean, they're kind of like the friends to haters to lovers archetype, right? Only the lovers part doesn't really exist yet. And it's a shame, especially after All-Stars, which was really building up to their friendship becoming more and more important again. It's too bad that it never happens. But out of these two, I'm gonna go with Gwen again because, well, I like Courtney. I think Courtney is a great character, but I just like Gwen a lot more. And Courtney, when I think of Courtney, not the best memories come up first. But when I think of Gwen, it's all sunshine and rainbows, and then the ugly stuff of action and World Tour comes later. DJ versus Owen. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Owen. That's not really a hard one. Sorry, DJ, I really like DJ too, but Owen I just like a lot more. Owen is the total drama mascot for a reason. He's great. Owen is fantastic. Harold versus Izzy, the last of our quarterfinalists. I mean, if it takes so much issue for me to choose Harold over Lindsay, then surely he has to beat Izzy, right? Izzy makes it this far because Izzy is a very, very, very good comic relief character. But other than that, Izzy doesn't get development. And I always say that Izzy doesn't need development, but that doesn't mean that characters that do get fully developed arcs aren't, by definition, better characters. So I gotta give it to Harold here. Alright, just 4 more characters left in the semi-finals. Let's find out who the first boot is. Heather versus Gwen. Before I'm gonna look at this is a fantastic bracket, by the way. Look at this. This is the top 3 of Island, and then the most vital contestant out of the other team. Okay, Heather versus Gwen. Now the question here is, do I go for character development or do I go for likability? And I feel that, looking back at what I did previously with these characters, if I choose Heather over Justin because I go for character development over likability and funniness and overall me liking them, then I have to do the same here. But I also chose Gwen over Noah, which has the exact same effect. No, you know what? I'm gonna go with Heather. I said it before and I'll say it again. Heather is the most well-rounded character in Total Drama. She's the perfectly written character. And for that, I think she's gotta beat Gwen. But it's a tight one. This is a hard one. Then we have Harold versus Owen. Owen is more zany, but Harold is a better written character. Just by far. Harold is a lot funnier. No, Harold isn't necessarily funnier than Owen, but Owen does get a bit absurd at times, and he doesn't really get to do a whole lot more than the stereotype he's built around. And, well, Harold, well, I don't need to explain Harold, right? I did so with Trent and with Lindsay and with Izzy. It's Harold. I really like Harold. Finale, we have the finally. What? Never mind. Oh, but no, wait. As a little fun thing, fighting for third place, right? Gwen versus Owen. I think Gwen. I really like Gwen in Island. I really like Gwen in All-Stars. Owen didn't even get to be in All-Stars. Owen just had a couple of weird moments in the show. And Gwen had weird moments that weren't really her fault. She just got dragged along with the drama. But Owen had weird moments because of the character. Especially in action when he gets to return as some kind of imposter. That just really didn't fit Owen. So Owen is more inconsistent and Gwen is just overall better. So if we're looking at third place, then currently it's Gwen. And then now let's move on to our final two, which are Heather and Harold. Heather is the perfect written character, but Heather isn't likable. No, I shouldn't say that. Heather is likable, but Heather isn't rootable. She is... That's also wrong. What I mean to say is that there's a large majority of the show where Heather is just a... There's a lot of words that I want to express about what Heather is, but that would make me PG unfriendly, and I don't want to do that. So, Heather is a spoon. Let's substitute it for Heather is a spoon. I don't know what that means either. Lindsay has this entire speech about what Heather is. You might want to look that up again once you're done with this video. But Harold is not only a very well-written character, he's also super likable and rootable, and I just really like Harold. And to circle back to that question why I even made this bracket in the first place, like, who's my favorite character out of all? I would never think of Heather. Heather isn't my favorite character, even though I think she's written magnificently. But Harold is my favorite character. Yeah, I could totally live with that. Harold is a fantastic character. I would be proud to call Harold my favorite character. It would make me so happy. No, in all seriousness. So I think we have ourselves a winner, and that is Harold. Yay! How do you end one of these videos? Thank you everybody so much for watching. This has been Silly Billy, and remember that Lindsay probably should have been a lot higher on this list if it wasn't for Harold. Out up!